Hello, and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy Podcast, episode number 152 for the week of Monday, March 31st, 2014. I'm Ryan Higgins, who is here with me this week.
Brock Sager.
Bryce Larsen.
And Charlie West.
Hello, everyone. Everyone gets their last names this podcast. How bizarre.
Yes, yes it is.
I thought Omar was coming, but I don't know where the hell he is. And Toby's on his way, so he'll join us shortly. He's running late. Work's keeping him. So we'll just get right into it. We have a lot of stuff to talk about here. A couple things from Emerald City Comic Con, although not a lot of news from Emerald City. Charlie, I know a couple of your friends are up there, friends of the podcast, various members of the Infinite Longbox podcast. Did you talk to them much about the con? Did they give you any...
No, I've gotten a total of one text while they've been there that was pretty much just the generic wish you were here.
Now, more importantly, did they pick up a copy of the Sandman 3D cover for myself and Brock? The most important part of the convention.
Text.
Damn it. Well, we got one copy here, so
I'll fight you for it.
We'll find another copy for you, Brock. Don't worry.
I know.
So Emerald City Comic Con was this last weekend. Big comic convention on the West Coast now that WonderCon and San Diego Comic Con aren't really comic conventions anymore.
Well, now that there's not one in between, like L.A. and...
Yeah. They're kind of
Seattle.
They're kind of the next big one. So, glad to hear Emerald City was good. I'm pretty sure it's sold out. I know it sold out the 3-day passes.
No, it sold out.
Did it even sell out the Sundays too?
As far as I don't know about the Sunday, but I know the Friday and Saturday were gone like
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know WonderCon right now was sold out of everything but Sunday, and that may have even changed last time I checked. I checked on Friday or Saturday, so... man, these cons, just getting too big. Too popular, guys, too popular.
And Gallifrey won the Doctor Who con, sold out in 45 minutes this year.
Yeah, that always sells out super fast. A couple of our...
Well, last year it was 12 days. This year it was 45 minutes.
It is selling out faster. Yeah, it's doing that normal con thing of doesn't sell out, sells out in months, sells out in weeks, sells out in days, sells out in minutes. So... a couple of our... I think...
Gallifrey was a little faster than that.
Yeah. Well, I think a couple of our customers are going, so I'll be curious. Are you going?
I'm hoping to. I'm hoping to scare up a ticket still, but no. As of right now, I do not have a ticket to Gallifrey one. I want to, though.
That's the big Doctor Who convention in L.A.
Yep.
So it's been getting bigger and bigger. I know Rose Tyler was there last year. She was...
there were a lot of people there this past year. I mean, they're keeping it relatively small, which is kind of surprising because they've reached that point where they're attracting a fair amount of the Doctor Who star power and stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. Too many conventions. I'll go through a few of these questions here. We got a few. We got a bunch of random crowds to talk about, and then Bryce Larsen's ComiXpiracy Book Club Pick of the Month for March 2014. That is the Dark Phoenix Saga, X-Men Classic storyline.
It's just fun that we all have a copy in various ways in front of us.
Brock and Bryce, I think, have the same collection. But Bryce actually has
sitting there with single issues.
He's got his singles. He's
got singles. You got a trade with one cover.
I got the new trade.
Bryce has a trade with a different. Bryce is holding Brock's trade with a different cover, and then of course I have the hardcover.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which, just so you know, means Bryce is just finishing his book club pick now.
I paid 75 cents for the double size 137 about a year before I was born.
Wow, nice.
So
nice.
Yeah, that was good of me.
You bought it for 75 cents a year before you were born?
He went back in time.
Yep, with Doctor Who.
Well, we got a few questions about April Fools. I'm going to read a bunch of these kind of in a row, and we'll answer these in random ways. CrossX Hunter asks, has there been any good comic-related April Fools jokes? Let's see. I think there was like one or two more people asking about this. Where is it? This is from Chris on Twitter. He says, what's the funniest moment in a comic or comic each of you have read, or the funniest comic moments you've seen? And then Peter Blanco asks, in spirit of April Fools, what's your favorite gag character? So a couple April Fools related questions here. Before we start that, though, can I just say I hate April Fool's Day. I hate it. Every year.
I was waiting for this.
I hate it. I talk about this every year. I hate it. It's awful. It's stupid. Occasionally some of the jokes are kind of funny, but it's not worth all the miserable, terrible jokes people try to have. So, like today, Google decided, so this I appreciate, and not specifically because it's about Pokemon, but it just this sort of April Fool's joke, quote unquote. Google has a thing where they put all these wild Pokemon on the Google Maps, and you can catch them. And they're giving away like a Pokemon trainer competition to like be an employee of Google as a Pokemon trainer. Like I don't know how extended that is as far. I don't know how far this joke goes. But that's cool. Okay. And Blizzard, I know Bryce and Charlie, both fans of Blizzard. Yeah. They do some nice kind of fun World of Warcraft and StarCraft and Diablo jokes in years past. But they kind of get into it. They make actual video games or videos. You know, they had like the old like the old 8-bit. Or no, it wasn't even 8-bit.
To me,
it was like the DOS. It was like the DOS Diablo game. I think it was a couple years ago. So they've done, so they do these various things.
The Deckard Cain rap is still the best.
But then,
there was a Deckard Cain rap?
Yes, there was a Deckard Cain rap.
So then, like Thanksgiving and Christmas and everything, now March 31st is also part of April Fool's Day because all this crap started happening today. Brian Michael Bendis announced the return of the Amalgam Universe, which clearly not real. And it's just, oh, God, it drives me crazy. I hate it.
I think the best one is when they when they say a whole bunch of shit's going to happen. And it was like, oh, whatever, but they have like one thing in there that does end up happening.
Well, that's...
No, my favorite thing is when something starts as an April Fool's joke, and then they actually make the product to sell because people want it.
The Tauntaun sleeping bags. That's a classic.
My favorite one.
Yeah. So I'm not really against the idea of April Fools, but all the bad ones out there, people linking constantly to stuff, not realizing it's April Fool's. It's like you can't do anything tomorrow. People being like, "Oh, April Fool's joke on March 31st." It's like, no, it's not a joke. You're lying. It's not a joke if it's not on April Fool's. And even on April Fool's is annoying. So stop it. Stop April Fool's. I never want to see April Fool's again. Anyway, no, there have been no good April Fool's comic stuff as far as I know. I'm sure there's been a few that have been kind of funny, but it's like, oh, hey, Wendy and Marvin movie. Yeah, sure, April Fool's. Blah, blah, crap like that. But fun, funny comic book moments or gag characters. There's definitely a few of those. Don't say Speedball. He's not a gag character. He's legit. He's fully legit. Speedball is a fully legit character.
See,
Brock.
I kind of feel like it doesn't matter what character you pick. I wouldn't want to classify anybody as just a purely gag character.
No, because I think
Slapstick.
Slapstick.
That's the first one. Yeah,
Slapstick
the only one that I would think of
is a character that Marvel created.
Impossible Man.
He's
kind of
Slapstick's like a cartoon. Ambush Bug, very much kind of this gag character. They've done great stories with Ambush Bug.
Yeah, but that's why I wouldn't want to just label him as a gag character because.
But they're sort of. But there's a difference between just goofy characters and a character that's made to be this sort of more humorous take. And Captain Carrot a little less so. That's not really ever meant to... I mean...
Spider-Ham?
Not really. Spider-Ham, sure.
Howard the Duck?
Howard the Duck's more kind of social commentary than gag.
Okay, if I have to classify something as a gag character, even though I don't really consider him a gag character, I'll just stick with the Tick.
Sure. Yeah. Again, more parody than anything, but it's kind of a tough call there. So
the banjo guy,
the banjo
DC
guy
universe.
We were just watching that over the weekend. We were watching.
That's the first time I'd seen it.
Oh yeah, was it Mr. Banjo?
Yeah,
and that Robot Chicken DC special. Yeah. Mr. Banjo's great.
Will we classify Firestorm as a gag character?
No, die.
We should have watched the special features on that. I still haven't seen all the ones that were part of the special features.
Yeah, there were some cut ones that we didn't see. Mitchell asks...
we weren't going to do any funny moments?
Yeah. What's some funny comic book moments?
Well, I haven't...
The entirety of the Larfleeze Christmas special.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
That one was awesome.
That's a good one.
I guess for me, it's not... I haven't read it yet, but I know it's there. Is the Pies and Suicide Squad?
That's not really... I mean, it is funny-ish, I guess. I don't know.
Gags.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like this running gag joke through the book, but it becomes something of an important plot as it goes on.
For funny moments, I would just like to give an honorary, not related to comic books at all, shout out to How I Met Your Mother series finale tonight.
Jesus.
Love that show.
Ugh.
And
the early word on Twitter is that the ending is atrocious. So there you go. Hope it didn't spoil it for you.
Well, you're a jackass.
I don't watch
I do.
My funny moment's probably Deadpool, Joe Kelly run. Although he's had some stuff.
Deadpool at this point is basically a gag character.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I hate it.
I love the Night of the Living Deadpool they have going on right now. That is very funny.
So I haven't read that. I sort of burned out on Deadpool, but he was great in that Joe Kelly run, and he was. I picked up one or two of the issues when he was back in the 70s of this current run. It was a couple months back, but that was also really funny. I don't know. There's
the last time I laughed out loud when I was reading a comic book was an issue of Saga when one of the characters was asked, "Who are you?" He's like, "Lord of Shit Vacations." I laughed. It was so hilarious because it's the bounty hunter guy.
Yeah, it's got a lot of the will. Yeah. He's got a bunch of. It takes a cheeky writer to get you, or to get me at least, to be able to laugh out loud.
So Mitchell asks,
that was enough silence for a laugh.
Yeah, that's good. Mitchell, Brock's around here.
Mitchell. You need to place an order, by the way.
Well, he's asking about the Walking Dead finale. And I want to talk about the Walking Dead finale, but I think we'll push that back a little bit further to the end of the podcast, only because I don't want to, give people a little spoiler buffer there. So
just because if we do it now and then Omar and Toby do show up,
they're going to want to talk about it too. Yeah. Brendan asks, are any of us fans of Tank Girl? If so, there's a Kickstarter for a new hardcover book called 21st Century Tank Girl. I liked Tank Girl when it was first coming out, but I find it's one of those books that they went away from the original creative teams. All sorts of other people were involved in it, and it just sort of...
There was a movie?
Well, that movie, nothing to do with the comic book. Very little to do with the comic book.
I don't know. I remember reading a bunch of Tank Girl when I first started getting into like the mass comic books and that kind of stuff. And I mean, it was fine, but I just kind of got burnt out on it, so I stopped.
Yeah, Jimmy Hewlett, who's the original artist in the series, now much more popular, known as one of the creators of the Gorillaz, the band. He actually is going to do a story in it, so that's cool. He hasn't done a Tank Girl in a very long time, so... But, it's a Kickstarter book, and if it comes out and just gets a regular release, then, that's fine. I'll check it out then. This isn't something I need to kickstart. I do like the original Tank Girl stuff, but, it's one of those characters that all the stuff... IDW's published a bunch of Tank Girl comics, but they're just... I don't know. I never got into them. So,
if you like a female Mad Max...
David asks, I'd be curious to hear the group's thought on Fear Agent. It is one of my favorites. Those hardcovers, the ones Dark Horse are putting out right now, are gorgeous. And Charlie is a big Fear Agent fan.
Well, I've read some of it. I've been a bigger fan since the hardcovers started coming out.
Charlie's always a bigger fan when the hardcovers
Oh, no, those hardcovers are beautiful. So I started with the series because of those hardcovers. And the second one just came out.
I thought you read it back in the day, no?
Nope.
Huh. Yeah, that's your early Rick Remender stuff. Yeah. So, Bryce, you should...
No, I mean, I picked up the hardcover, have not opened it. It is so beautiful. But love Remender so much that I will get to it, but first world problems that a lot of people have.
Too much to read?
Yeah, too much to read.
Yeah. But just a shout out, Dark Horse hardcovers are phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a sexy hardcover.
Yeah.
Fear Agent's kind of a... how to describe it? I mean, it's like, jetpacks and ray guns, sort of futuristic, astronaut fighting monsters.
Is it that different than Black Science?
Yeah, Black Science is more serious. Fear Agent, I don't want to say it's a comedy. It's not a comedy, but it's definitely. I think Fear Agent is lighter. Yeah, Black Science seems pretty a little heavier. So
it is a Dark Horse hardcover, is it?
Fear Agent?
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Dark Horse. Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm confusing my brain for a moment.
Yep. Ryan Yu on Twitter asks, I was just thinking of reading James Robinson's Starman. Is it worth reading and does it make sense on his own? I can cover this one if no one else wants to talk about it. But Starman, one of my favorite comics of all time, the James Robinson run. Absolutely, you can read from issue number 1. You don't need to know who anyone is or everything is explained. The whole backstory. It is as close as we've gotten to another Sandman that DC has published, or that any comic company has published. On my short list of top 5 comics, there's going to be a few that always rotate in and out, but Starman's going to be in that list almost all the time.
Yeah, I've read the first trade. I enjoyed it. I wanted to keep reading, but at the time, I think that was when they were coming out. The omnibuses were coming out, and they had stopped printing the soft covers.
Well, Starman is in a shitty position right now of being nigh impossible to buy, as you can find the old trades super cheap because they're out of print, but they're worthless. They're not really worth anything. They did all the hardcovers, a complete run of the hardcovers, which are nice and beautiful, a little expensive, but really good. They did, I want to say, 2 soft covers and canceled the series. They didn't reprint the rest, which is idiotic. Starman is an amazing read, needs to be kept in print, easily accessible to new readers, something that everyone should read.
All of a sudden, I would hate to be your rep with.
I've talked to them.
He's said it a couple of times. I've been in the same room.
Starman is one of those where I've picked up occasionally and just said, "So Starman, any idea?" And my rep, he knows. Oh, he knows. The James Robinson Starman, based around Jack Knight, who is the son of Ted Knight, the original Starman back in the Golden Age. He doesn't really want his powers. He kind of just took this over because his brother. This is not a spoiler. His brother gets killed in like the second page. It's like the opening shot of the very first page. His brother gets shot in the head. Who was Starman at the time? David Knight, I believe. David Knight. Great series. A lot of the stuff, if you like what James Robinson has done on some of his more recent Marvel work, or maybe JSA, some of these other books he's worked on, definitely Starman comes with as high of a recommendation as I can possibly give. Let's see, I got 1 or 2 more here. Marco asks, opinions on DC restarting current numbering with the new number 1, a la Marvel Now. Would John's Romita Superman benefit from a new number 1? Should they copy Marvel's approach and renumber ongoings to grab more readers? At this point, I don't even care. Yeah. Marvel's completely ruined it and destroyed the idea of a number 1.
What?
Marvel?
Yeah.
Dude, what are you talking about? Like, they are the only ones culpable, and DC is in...
DC did it once. How many Captain America number 1s have there been in the last 15 years? Marvel Captain America number 1s? I believe
since the New 52, how many Captain America number 1s?
No.
In the last since the New 52, how many Captain America number 1s have there been?
Well, 1 since the New 52. Okay, but I just said in the last 15 years, I believe there is
15 years.
There's 8 volumes of Cap.
I believe it's 8 volumes of Cap have come out in the last 15 years.
Now, again, you and I have talked because I bitch about it with the back issues, but I don't mind if they have like a set amount for a volume, and then they come out with another number 1. But they don't kind of have the, like, let's say Animal Man came back with a new number 1, right, with a new creative team, so on and so forth, and it went on for 24, 36 issues. That's fine because it's the next volume of Animal Man. But when they're just kind of, we're just going to do a whole bunch of new number 1s, like Wolverine has on 5.
The only time it actually bothers me has to do with what would be considered the milestones, because you always get we're going to renumber it, start with number 1. Then they're about to hit issue 500, so they change the numbering back a couple issues before, do their big 500 thing, get X amount of issues after that, then renumber again back to number 1.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I've seen throughout the years, renumbering does almost nothing for a series. Here's what happens. New creators will bump up books regardless of what number they're on. The number 1s get more readers because of variants, not because they're number 1s. I'm sorry, not more readers. They sell more copies because of the variants. It has nothing to do... If it was number 25 and there was 14 variants, they would sell, I would think, relatively the same. If you have a book that's been canceled, it's been gone for 5 years, sure, a new Ghost Rider, new Elektra, I get that for a number 1. But when a book ends and the next month there's a number 1, to me that's stupid, that's pointless. So if they want to have a new Superman book or whatever, that'd be fine. But honestly, if DC did it now, I wouldn't even bat an eye because Marvel has made me so desensitized to number 1s, and I think readers too. I can go pull some sales chart numbers, and you see there is every time Marvel does a stunt, the new number one sells less than the previous one, and less and less and less, unless there's some crazy variant incentive, which they're putting out more and more to goose those numbers. But by number 2 or 3, they're below where they were when they left. So
now, all that being said, I would say the way they handled the stuff with Spider-Man going to Superior Spider-Man, now back to Amazing, is completely correct.
Sure, and then in 14 issues, they're going to have Amazing Spider-Man 750.
Yeah, at which point they'll renumber it back, and that's where I have a problem.
Right. This numbering mumbo jumbo that they go back and forth kills me. I just don't like when one issue 45, the next issue is 798. Yeah.
That is incredibly annoying.
I like how they did. Was it Batman 900?
Yeah.
Right. Where
the
Detective 900.
Detective 900. It was 19.
Yeah.
Was the issue?
Well, look, if Frank Miller doesn't need a renumbered Batman for year 1, and Byrne and Claremont don't need a renumbered Uncanny X-Men for Dark Phoenix Saga, why does Joe Schmo need a renumbered Wolverine for another fucking awful Wolverine story?
Look, this is what I'm saying. I am not trying to excuse it as, oh, no, this is a good reason because of X. What I'm saying is that you seem to have a stick up your ass about this is like ruining my day.
It's frustrating. As a comic retailer and someone has to deal with back issues and sorting and volumes, it is frustrating. And trying to explain to customers on a daily basis, oh, Wolverine 1, but I bought Wolverine 1, but there's another one. Is this the same as one? Is this? It's annoying.
And especially when you get to the renumbering stuff, it's like, okay, now I need to know, like, is this go with this series? There was a period of time where Marvel and a few companies had the same look to certain titles that they relaunched. So it's like, all right, which series does this go with? So you're having to. I literally sometimes have to flip open the book to see what volume it is.
All right, so maybe I'm in the minority here, where this has never really been a problem for me. I think that the idea.
How many long boxes are in your collection?
Regardless, I think that. Wait, why is that funny?
Because try having over 30 long boxes or dealing with like hundreds of long boxes.
Okay, yeah, I don't have that problem. So I don't know when I'm reading them and I'm following them or not. I mean, number one is a good jumping on point for anybody, and yes, it is to boost their sales. But as a person that isn't reading, it is easier for them to come in to number one than number 562. But because you're not getting new readers, is maybe the meta point of it all.
Yeah,
I don't know if that has more to do with print media, going away, and maybe that's not just a comic book thing. I don't know, but what I'm saying is that, you guys are really put out by this.
Well, my viewpoint on this just has to do with the fact that it used to be that it kind of felt like because it wasn't happening all the time, number one was something to pay attention to. And I do agree that based on the new 52 and everything they've been doing with the all-new Marvel Now and everything, it's lost that significance of the number one, and that's kind of a shame.
I think, and this is not Marvel specific, this is every company. The gimmick of a new number one, when it overtakes the creative team or the creative process of the character, that's when I have a problem. You can argue New 52 is like that, but I would argue that DC so rarely renumbered books. There was a couple. Flash went through some awful volumes, and they just couldn't figure it out, so they kept renumbering. DC's not immune to this either. No. But the Marvel Now stuff has really killed my. It's actually done a good thing. It's killed me caring. I don't care anymore.
That is a great thing. And in the past 2 years since New 52 has been out, has it been 2 years? I think maybe just over 2 years.
Yeah, a little over 2.
DC's done it once. Marvel's done it twice. I mean, in the past 2 years, there's only been 2 Marvel number ones of whatever the appropriate series titles are. So
DC's been like 2.5 years. Yeah, it's been 2.5 years since New 52.
All right, so Marvel's done it twice in the past 2.5 years. DC's done it once. That's not such a big discrepancy that Marvel's the only one.
No, you're right. And Marvel was doing this before too.
I think what's really sort of putting a spotlight on this, and the reason why it's easy to point a finger at Marvel right now, is they're literally not changing creative teams or anything. And Daredevil just launched with the new #1. We had Wolverine just end and suddenly new #1. At the end of the previous run for Wolverine and the X-Men, it said, check out next week, Wolverine and the X-Men #1.
Oh, at the end of the book. Yeah. I agree. It's annoying. I just...
It seems to me that they're doing it at the creative team switch, which is why Avengers and All New X-Men isn't seeing the relaunch, but X-Force did, and Wolverine and the X-Men did. So anytime a creator leaves a book, they're going to relaunch the book. To me, that is frightening. That we're basically going to have a relaunch every year for Marvel.
Yeah, but what's wrong with that? This is frustrating me so much.
This has a way of driving away customers. It honestly does. If you come in 6 months from now and or let's say you haven't been in for 6 months, you're like, oh, it's issue 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 1, 2. Wait, what happened here? Okay, well, I guess they started this series over. Do I not need the old ones? Do I need the new ones? I mean, comics have always had this issue going back.
In this example, why don't you just pick up #1 and 2 and be happy that you have a new jumping on point?
Because they want to finish off the previous series. So, psychologically, these new #1s, while great jumping on points, are also great jumping off points for a lot of people.
You just used an example of somebody coming in after 6 months. Right. They're not jumping off. They weren't here for 6 months.
But the thing is, Marvel Now's push is towards the Wednesday customers, the guys that are here every week that know what's going on, which is not most readers. So if you come in right now, you're going to look on my shelf and be like, why are there 2 stacks of X-Force? Why is one say 17 or 18, and why does one say 1? Like, to some people, we are not those people, and probably some of the people listening are not those people, but for a lot of casual readers, that is confusing. When you confuse your audience, that is frustrating. If you come in 6 months ago and you say, hey, here's 52, and now we're up to 58, that makes sense.
Well, I mean, it's you have X-Force, which has the same font as Cable and X-Force. So it's like, do I read Cable and X-Force, or it's...
Well, with that, it's like...
Now you're just nitpicking.
Yeah, I mean, all the Avengers titles all look exactly the same. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's not that big of a deal. But, Superior Spider-Man, understood. To me, that was such a dramatic shift. It basically is a new character. That I'm okay with.
And Thor.
Winter Soldier was canceled. They bring it back for a new miniseries. Fine. That's fine, right? Secret Avengers, no, it was number 17 and we have a 1 the next month. No, that's unnecessary. Wolverine and the X-Men, literally the following week the #1 came out from the time 50 or 42 came out. That's pointless. To me, that is confusing. It confuses me as a retailer. It is difficult to explain to people why they're doing this. Customers roll their eyes. But, sure, I mean, this, like I said, this is not exclusive to Marvel. Independent companies are guilty of this as well. DC's guilty of this as well. Green Arrow, Flash, these characters were relaunching pre-New 52. So, again, this is not just a Marvel thing. But they have become sort of the poster child for this in the current day.
Okay, I'm with you.
Anyway, we can move on from this topic. We always have a lot to say about this. Hey, guys, do you know what yesterday was?
Sunday.
2 days before April Fool's?
Yeah.
a day after your surprise birthday party?
According to some people.
The day I was working here?
According to some people, it was Batman's birthday.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. 1939. Batman, Detective Comics, number 27, was published. There is some...
it was also the anniversary of Batman's parents' death.
Yes. Some things... I think CGC lists... the cover date of Detective 27 is May 1939. Most of the time, those cover dates, at least the way I'm aware of cover dates working for magazines and comic books in the past, is the month that you take the book off the shelf. It's usually a month.
As a kid, that really confused me.
Right. So if you ever wonder why the month, like I'm looking at, what's a comic book here? Any of these books from this past week? Yeah, sure. Like I'm looking at this Harley Quinn number 4. It says May 2014, right? So that is the date that you take it off the shelf, generally 2 months or a month prior. So end of March, beginning of April, it could vary from location to location. But Batman's 75 years old. And DC has a bunch of Batman's 75th anniversary things being planned for this year. I don't have the full list in front of me here, but I know we are getting officially the Batman 66 TV show being released on DVD officially.
Excited.
There's going to be a fair number of books. I think there's some documentary that they're working on. So that Batman DVD set or Blu-ray or whatever, that is the big. That is the big thing.
The Adam West.
The Adam West TV
66.
show. That is, I don't think any comic-related news this year will top that when it finally comes out. Movies, even including the movies, because that show, some people hate it, some people love it, but that show is responsible for comic books becoming so big for such a, it burned very brightly and faded away, but for some fans, that is the thing that led into the 80s. These guys were kids in the 60s. By the time they were in the 70s and 80s, they were adults. And that was, comic books really changed in that time. They may have grown up on that Batman, goofy and campy, but that brought their love of comics to, one of their formative childhood memories.
That brought us the Dark Knight.
It really did. I mean, you may never... Batman got crappy, and if you listen to the Fat Man on Batman podcast over the last couple months, you've been talking to Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams, and part of their challenge was to change Batman away from that, specifically to become darker. As a response to that type of Batman, we got the more traditional take on Batman that we now know that's basically been here since the 70s. So even though that Batman was so different, they may never have really changed. It could have happened eventually, but that was specifically the thing that changed Batman to this much darker, brooding character. Introduced characters like Ra's al Ghul, Charlie's favorite. So whether you liked it or you hated it, the importance of that show cannot be undersold. So very, very excited.
Yep.
There is a let me see here. I had an email about this as well. Let me see if I can find this email while I'm bringing this up.
Did you notice the pop figure for the Batman 66 Joker has the mustache?
Yeah, I did. Yes. I did. That's perfect. That's perfect.
I didn't see that. That's hilarious.
So I got a email earlier today from Jordan. Said, I was listening to an earlier episode where Ryan, myself, was talking about the new incarnation of Miss Marvel and how he didn't like how they gave her an announcement followed by her own book. Meaning they announced the new Miss Marvel, the Muslim Miss Marvel, and then give her own title. Not exactly how I remember it, but maybe, I don't know, we'll go back and listen to it. He says, I'm wondering what your thought on the new, now I believe it's pronounced Kree, I could be wrong, not the X-Men Kree, but the
CREE.
Right, yeah. Right. The Native Canadian members of the world, of the country. The new Kree character Equinox, and how they bring her into comics via Justice League Unlimited in comparison to how Marvel did it with Miss Marvel. So if I'm mispronouncing that, I'm assuming that's how that's pronounced. They announced that there's going to be a new member of Justice League United, which is the Jeff Lemire. What's that?
I was about to correct the Unlimited.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I said Unlimited. I meant United. The Justice League title replacing Justice League America. Jeff Lemire is moving the Justice League up to Canada and adding in a new character. So, I am never against new characters. I'm never against making, more characters, whether they're female or minority or anything like that. That was never my problem. My problem with the Miss Marvel thing, I think, was that it seemed more like they were making this character and launching her into her own title was more my problem. And I should actually say sales in the book, at least for us, have been very solid. So at least for a few issues, there is an audience. We'll see how it goes from there. So, canceled by 12 is still very possible, but we'll see. Toby, welcome.
Hello.
Is your microphone on?
Yes.
It is. Say hello, Toby. Thank you for coming. Thank you for joining us. So this is how I feel you do this properly, is what Jeff Lemire is doing here.
They did that with, what's the character from Teen Titans?
Which one?
The gay purple guy.
The gay purple guy. Yeah, Bunker?
Bunker, that's it.
Sure. And like I said, I'm not against any new characters, but a character like this, I think this is a good way to do it. Or maybe Bunker is a good way to do it as well. Launching a Bunker series just going out there and launching it is death. It's like not going to fly almost regardless of the creative team or the people involved.
Well, even before, Batwoman came out with the new Batwoman came out from what the 52
Backup in Detective.
Backup in Detective had some stuff going on in 52, had other things, and then after her run in Detective that was so solid, she got her own. Well,
right.
She got her own Zero issue, and then
right.
New 52.
But Equinox, she's going to be part of Justice League United. And Jeff Lemire's like, hey, if people want to make her spin her off in her own book, awesome, cool, but whatever, I'm just making her for this team. To me, that is how you do it. Again, I have no problem with the Miss Marvel comic. I'm just assuming it's going to be canceled by issue 12 because it's a character not many people care about, regardless of race or gender. And these characters have a tendency of not lasting if they're not called Batman or Spider-Man. So adding a new ongoing title onto the mix is, it's kind of like, what's the point? Not that they shouldn't try, but, they shouldn't try occasionally, but you got to be realistic about how these things work. So this character, Equinox, I don't expect we'll see in an ongoing series. Probably will appear in a few issues and you never hear from her again. That's just the nature of these characters. Mm-hmm. But, I think Jeff Lemire is going about it the right way.
Yeah, I agree.
No, the way I always see it is kind of the way that I feel like comics used to do it more and more, is you used to get a character like Cable or Deadpool introduced in other books, and then they get popularity, there gets the demand, and all of a sudden they have their own solo book.
Well, look at, we'll get to Dark Phoenix Saga in a little bit, but look at all the characters introduced in just these handful of small issues through a book that already existed.
The first appearance of Dazzler's in there, in the Dark Phoenix Saga.
Dazzler and Kitty Pryde and the White Queen. And, right, it's all these characters.
As they get more popular and more demand, they can carry a title more and more. That's sort of the nature of the industry. You have to make sure there's a demand there before you provide the product.
Phantom X, kind of a recent example.
Yeah.
Although his book,
Phantom X and Quentin Quire. And Quentin Quire is
his own book yet, but
he's the main character of Wolverine in the X-Men.
Right, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
He is the main character.
But Phantom X actually had his own title.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know how well that sold, but just more and more popular. Yeah.
Deadpool would never have had his own series. I think if they'd launched a Deadpool book straight out, no one would have cared. But you make him huge in New Mutants, you bring him over to the X-Force, you give him a mini-series, and then they're like, boom, go. Yeah. That's the proper way to do it. It's difficult. It's very hard to launch a new character.
You said it exactly. If it's not Batman, if it's not X-Men, it's not this. And you're right. It's not Quentin Quire in the X-Men. It's Wolverine in the X-Men. But Quentin Quire is the main character. So...
Yeah.
I mean, Runaways, I would argue, is probably the most recent example of a brand new character or set of characters introduced in a new #1. And, I mean, is there anything... I can't think of anything else besides them in the last decade or 15 years. I mean, Marvel and DC, that is. I really can't. That didn't exist in some fashion before. And Runaways... it was never a sales juggernaut, but it did well for itself. But eventually, once Brian K. Vaughan left, it petered out and died.
That's a good example of a creator-driven book.
Even Joss Whedon couldn't save that book.
Yeah,
so it's difficult.
DC had the wonderful, horrible example of Vibe.
But that's an already existing.
It was already an existing character.
No need for his own series.
No need for his own series. But it's
absolutely not.
You gave this guy a series.
Wasn't Batwing new?
Well,
Well, technically, he existed prior to that. Batwing was in the Grant Morrison Batman.
Okay. For some reason, I thought he was brand new.
But he you're not wrong.
There was not
basically
a huge demand for.
Yeah, he really kind of came out of nowhere as his own book. So that Batwing would be another example. I would, even though he technically was in a little bit of Incorporated.
He had a soft reboot.
Right. They really changed that character up. So yeah, that's.
Well,
but
even
the soft
anymore.
Reboot couldn't save it. So.
Now, no.
That's too bad.
And I mean, a lot of stuff like that kind of carried on the high from being part of the New 52, part of the new Bat family that they established.
Right.
Yeah.
So we've talked at length about DC Comics in the past and their troubled nature with creators. This past week, leading up to and during Emerald City Comic Con, this is all according to Bleeding Cool here, DC creators were asked 60 questions by Dan Nelson and DC Comics about what they liked and didn't like about DC and the way they were treated and everything. There's a few
Why not 52 questions?
That would have been perfect. Very good, very good.
And the first answer would have been, that's exactly the problem.
So I'll be very curious to to see kind of if some of these maybe get leaked out a little bit. I mean, I want to say we maybe very briefly talked about this in the last episode because it just did get announced.
We talked about the memo that was sent.
Yeah. So I don't know. I haven't seen any of these, like a full list of the questions leak out anywhere. But if anyone saw it, let me know. I'd be very curious. And I wonder if we may see if someone may more publicize.
If someone
accidentally
wants to email us a copy.
Well, some of the stuff I was reading in reports to this were suggesting that they didn't do a very good job of checking the list of people these were being sent to.
Oh, right. It was like some Marvel exclusive guys were getting it and some more recent hires at DC weren't getting it.
Yeah.
I mean, I kind of just picture it's like DC.
This was the guy we wanted to hire. Oops.
Yeah, it's like DC on a scale from 9 to 10. How awesome are we? You know, like that's kind of like I feel like these questions are so loaded because it's supposed to be anonymous, but if you
do you still want to be working?
Yeah, exactly. Like
that'd be like you handing us. How am I as a business owner?
It's
and
tough.
Then watching us fill it out as we're doing it.
I mean, comics are a very small group
This is
of
like
people.
when you're trying to get a citizenship. Is one of the questions like, are you ever going to conspire against the United States government? Let me think about this one.
Maybe.
Sure, why not? That's a freedom I'll have, right?
Yeah, you go on a plane. Do you have any weapons or guns on you?
Did you pack your bags yourself?
Maybe. We all love that. What the hell is it? Court of Owls mask that they gave out at San Diego Comic-Con a few years.
I still need one.
That you can now buy through the DC Comics Court of Owls box set that they have with the first trade
I don't
paperback.
need the box set. I just want the mask.
Well, now they're doing Batman Death of the Family box set with the collector Joker skin mask.
Yes, but it's not like the Court of Owls.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I want to put that shit on my face. I might stay there.
The hair is kind of creeping me out.
Is that hair actually part of the mask?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
from the description, it's
Yes.
actually sewn.
You don't want me to wear this on the podcast.
No.
You get a whole new Toby.
Sewn on hair with a white elastic band. Man, this mask is creepy looking.
Yeah.
I want one.
I want one, even though I wear glasses and won't be able to wear it.
That way, next time we do a surprise party for you.
No.
We all wait in
Owls
your
and Jokers.
we all wait in your bedroom with the
That'd be a little
mask on.
frightening.
Deathstroke's mask.
That'd be a little bit frightening. And I should say thank you, all four of you, and all my other friends that surprised me for a. See, the best part about a surprise birthday party is when it's a week before your birthday. It's definitely a surprise. So,
well, she couldn't do it because you guys are going away. There's a sale, all that stuff. So, and we're going to see Cap on your birthday.
We are.
April 3rd.
Ooh, so excited to see Captain America. So, but yeah, this Batman mask thing looks awesome. This is going to be our tag for the image for this episode. So you can go on the website and see this Batman Joker mask.
I'd be actually kind of scared if Charlie wore it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm gonna be scared if anyone wears this thing.
But especially Charlie. He could open the door and wear it. I'd be kind of scared.
Let's wrap up a little bit of DC news here. Did you guys know there's probably a Justice League movie being made?
I knew that you were going to take that headline and that story and go on this tangent with it. I was reading this. I'll let you describe it more, but I was like,
You were shaking your head as you're reading it. Fucking Ryan is going to
and I
talk
was
about
like,
this.
this article is useless.
It is, really. It really is.
There is no actual news in this article, but I know that Ryan tonight is going to get on here and he's going to be like, oh, well, guys, clearly this is proof that we're going to have a matching universe of DC interconnecting between the TV shows and the movies.
Did this come out today?
Nah, this is over the weekend, I think. Yeah.
And he's going to take all of these rumors and
Maybe it's an April Fool's
all of these
joke.
announcements for fact that they're creating this new DC canon within media, within film and television.
So it's Kevin Sugihara, Warner Brothers CEO, in the New York Times suggested the studios will take a more quote-unquote aggressive approach to bringing the DC Comics universe to screen.
like jamming everything into Superman 2?
Yeah, basically.
Don't pull a Spider-Man.
He says, there's a quote, a film series will be announced in the near future. It is
Comic-Con?
expected...
Comic-Con?
It is expected to include a Justice League movie, following the slate of television programs recently announced on Wonder, including The Flash and Gotham. So, hey, remember that Justice League movie we've been talking about for like 3 years? Yeah, guess what? DC's finally talking about it.
Talking about 15 years.
But they're not. talking about it.
No, that's what he said. In the future, we're going to announce a Justice League movie.
Exactly.
It's like, what?
Guess what? We're going to eventually talking about having
Exactly.
this movie.
Yeah. So
right now, we want to let you know we're still talking about it.
Those are like the trailers for the trailers.
Yeah, right. 2025 Justice League movies coming out.
Yeah.
So let's all get on board for this. Now, this one, I have one last thing to talk about here. This is an interesting rumor that got posted on Bleeding Cool, and I don't know how I feel about this.
When was it posted?
It's supposed to have been last week. The rumor with for Bleeding Cool here is that ComiXology is in talk to be bought by Amazon.com. That's worrisome. It could be very good for comics, especially digital comics, if every new digital comic was available through a ComiXology style, download app on on Amazon. So basically, you can buy.
I think Kindles already come with ComiXology in them.
Well, they have like the trade paperbacks, not the single issues.
Yeah, you can buy a lot of digital stuff on Amazon.
Well, I know it's on their Kindles.
Right. They have the trade paperbacks, but they don't deal with the singles to the best of my knowledge.
No, I haven't seen any of the singles.
You have to go through ComiXology itself. So if Amazon is just rolling ComiXology into part of Kindle and part of Google, or sorry, why do I keep saying Google, and part of Amazon, that may mean that the digital retail site that comic stores, ourselves included, that a lot of you guys buy from, probably would go away, and you would need a Kindle or read on the computer. Well, maybe they could find a way to port it over. I mean, can you read Kindle stuff on an iPad?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can. Okay,
Yeah,
so it's just a Kindle app.
Yeah.
Okay, so would you want ComiXology to go away and everything to be on Kindle? Does anyone care here?
I think you're concerned about the retailer.
I'm totally concerned about the business end of it.
Yeah,
I don't care about the other part.
Whether or not it goes to a platform where you get your whether Kindle, graphic novels merge with ComiXology, the product wise, I don't think it really matters. But it's that back end. It's that, taking away from retailers that little bit of the digital market that
that's my feeling.
They have.
Well, I guess my curiosity on this is I know Amazon already has some ways to sort of support various places linking to stuff on Amazon.
There is an affiliate account, but it's not the same amount. It's not the same percentage.
The affiliate account is the same. I think I've made 40 cents the entire time I've been on the affiliate account.
I'm just saying that it's not necessarily something outside of the wheel bag to give people a way to recoup some costs there. And hopefully, if they were to do something like that, they would sort of look at what's been going on with ComiXology and try to carry that forward, and maybe even carry it forward in a better way. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility that Amazon selling single issue comics could cause the sales of those to be, much more high profile, sell a lot better, more people in the comics.
Don't have to create a separate ComiXology account.
Right. One of my guys on Twitter, that when I was talking about this, had said, hey, I don't go back far enough. I can't remember who said this, but they said, what if we gave away like a free downloads with a Prime membership or something, free X amount of comics, that could get millions of people have access to it. But the reality is they do shit like that. They put them in the Avengers DVD sets, and and still the same amount of people really buy them. I just don't see this driving sales. This could just give Amazon their 30 or 40% of all this, and they could be happy with it, selling the same amount they're always selling. But who knows?
What did you think about the free comics Marvel started doing this week? The Superior had the first issue of Black Widow, and Avengers had the first issue of Invaders.
Yeah, won't move the needle an inch. I mean, people have always tried this. No one cares. People that want to buy Black Widow already bought it. Anyone else should go to buy Black Widow, they're going to find a bunch of second and third prints, or stores who won't have any. So I think it's too little too late. You do it too early, and why buy the original?
Yeah.
If you do it too late, I don't think it matters. It's not going to affect anything.
Well,
no one's going to care.
I'm hoping it matters because I don't want Black Widow to get canceled.
Oh, it'll be canceled by 12 or 16. It's a Black Widow series.
But it's awesome.
It is pretty good. But
I think if it surpasses 5, it's
welcome
hit a
to comics.
milestone.
No, they've already solicited through like 7 or 8 or something like that. So it's just, I'm not trying to be like, comic book sales suck. No, this is the way this works.
Yeah.
These books tend to not last too long.
Yeah, but I think in this day and age, when what we've been talking about, the idea of getting somebody to give a number one a chance, I think this is actually a fairly effective way.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, if more comics wanted to have a free copy of a previous book for a new series, that's a great way to get more people into it. But, you know, the amount of people buying Superior Spider-Man that would want Black Widow is low, and most of the people would already have it. Yeah, you may pick up a few, but you're talking...
So you think the pairing may be a little off?
Hundreds. I almost think. I mean, I would think you go the opposite way. You put Black Widow and Miss Marvel, right? You put Superior Spider-Man in Avengers. I think you pair on the same level.
Or you could even just do it as a kind of a blanket code for a number one, so that like if you like this series, go check out our other series.
Some of the digital codes Marvel has had has been for an entire trade paperback. They had a Guardians of the Galaxy issue where the digital code got you the Volume 1 trade as well as the single issue.
Nice.
So that's scary actually to me, but no, whatever. The digital market, I mean, they're still in this weird flux state right now. We don't know where they're going with it. So...
All right, what are we talking about?
We're recording for a long-ass time here already, and we still have to talk about the book club and Walking Dead. You guys, Toby, did you watch Walking Dead? Do you want to push it back to next week?
Huh?
Did you watch Walking Dead?
Yes.
You watched the finale?
It's phenomenal.
Okay, let's talk Dark Phoenix Saga here for a few minutes. We'll hit Walking Dead quick, and then we'll wrap up here because we can get this done. Bryce.
Yeah.
You've read it. You've read enough. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah. No, I've read it.
Bryce was doing a refresher before the podcast, and
But of the bonus reading.
and during the podcast. Yeah.
Anyway.
Now, Bryce.
Yeah.
I don't use the phrase legendary often.
Oh my God. Okay, yeah, keep going.
But if there is one comic arc and one group of creators that deserves this title, there's a few. There's definitely a few.
Yeah.
But on that very, very short list would be John Byrne and Chris Claremont's run of Uncanny X-Men and the Dark Phoenix Saga is story number 1.
My man.
You literally picked probably one of the 5 best comics ever published. You know this, right? I mean, this is on purpose, right?
Probably one of the 2 best.
Yeah, okay, maybe. Sure. It's up there. It's up there. It's up there. Why don't you tell us a little bit? Why don't you tell us a little bit about this comic? Okay.
And be happy that he used something from How I Met Your Mother.
I know that he did.
Don't wait for it.
For me. So, look, at the end of the day, this is an epic tale of triumph and tragedy, people.
He's reading the back of the hardcover.
You're the worst with saying things that. Oh God.
Let the magic flow, Brock. Don't spoil the magic.
Anyway, so this story was incredible. This story I picked up in my childhood, got me into X-Men, which got me into the 90s X-Men. And I think is the best example of incredible art and incredible storytelling and incredible, for me, I guess maybe a little bit of it was timing of what, when the stories came out and the characters and sort of, what I was looking for at that age. I'm not sure, but man, rereading this, so many emotions of, just nostalgia for the time gone by, and I did not see this coming at all when I chose it, but sort of frustration with current comic books, especially current X stuff, which I still love, but in such a different way. I read this so many years ago and didn't reread it until the book club choice, but. So for those of you that did not read it very quickly, it's an incredible story of Jean Grey, getting this power of the Phoenix after she already had it and then died and then came back to life, sort of beating into the ground the whole Phoenix thing. She gets this power and then she becomes so powerful it just keeps building and building and building, and over the course of the story Chris Claremont does an incredible job of breadcrumbing you through comic story to comic story, or sorry, comic book to comic book, issue to issue, that every story it makes sense that she's getting more powerful and you sort of see it happening before your eyes, and so when each reveal happens at the end of every issue it's kind of like, yeah, I totally buy into that. That is of course what happened. And so by the end, it's just, it starts off as this little piddly tale of kidnapping with the Hellfire Club, and it becomes this tale of crazy, like, intergalactic battles. So it's incredible. So, yeah, for those of you that haven't read it, that's what I would say. I would highly suggest reading it at some point in time. All of the Claremont and Byrne stuff, as a matter of fact. This is just the best example of it that I could sort of pick for a book club piecemeal. But for those of you that did read it, I mean, I can't wait till it comes back to me because I have so many choice moments that I want to talk about.
Well, Charlie.
Jean Grey kissing a bunch of other dudes.
Charlie.
There's a scene of Jean Grey that John Byrne draws with her not wearing a bra, which is awesome, and didn't see that coming.
Charlie, why don't you give us your quick review and score? Then
On that note, he moves.
We'll get around to Bryce so he can orgasm all over the place.
Okay, so Dark Phoenix Saga is one of those tales that I think is done perfectly. Like, I love the change in costume as you kind of go through, so you kind of know exactly who you're dealing with, whether or not it's Marvel Girl, Jean Grey, or you're dealing with Phoenix, or you're dealing with Dark Phoenix. It's always completely clear, and everything they do with, like, the Black Queen getup and everything like that is just so iconic these days that I can't say enough nice things about this story. One thing that I really, really like about comics from this time is while it does have a continuous story, each issue has what would be considered a sort of resolution to that issue where it can still be considered standalone, even though, as Bryce said, there's a very good thread that sort of carries through all these books, which galvanize the story by the end and just make it that much stronger. Okay, so now I've gushed quite a bit on it. So I'm going to go ahead and just give it, 10 out of 10 Bryces on this one. This story is just one of those that we've talked about a lot of the stuff that we've enjoyed from various like television shows and stuff. And I've always talked about how much I was excited when they adapted stories into like Batman the Animated Series. Well, this is one of those stories that I remember watching the 90s X-Men when they got to like revealing the fact they were going to do the Phoenix Saga. And of course, the second they revealed they were doing the Phoenix Saga, I'm like, holy crap, they're doing the Phoenix Saga, which means they're going to do the Dark Phoenix Saga, which, it completely and totally blew my mind at the time. And it's just one of those things that whenever they're doing anything, when you got to X-Men 3 before you actually saw it, again, it was the same thing. It was the holy crap, they're doing the Dark Phoenix Saga.
Until you watched it.
Until you
watched it. But I can't tell you how many times that's been like the uber excitement. And yes, most of the time it's been a letdown because of how good this book was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, the scene at the very end of X-Men 2 when it's just a lake and then there's like a tremor underneath the lake and every nerd in the theater orgasmed.
With the Dark Phoenix Saga, like I said earlier, I mean, this is one of those books where most, I shouldn't say most, because there's a lot of younger kids reading comics that, I mean, we were barely alive when this book started. Me, Charlie, Bryce, and Brock, and we're all roughly the same age, and Toby, too. We're all, within a year or two of each other.
Yeah, all of them except for Brock.
A couple years. So we were all like too young to have read this when it came out, but I know being here, a lot of my customers have said, that are a little bit older than us, have all said, this was... Charlie, go ahead.
I just have to say this because I was reading this here at the shop yesterday, and I had the book open on the counter. Nobody could see the spine or anything.
Yeah.
And I had at least like 4 people just take one look at a random page.
Yeah.
And like, you're reading the Dark Phoenix Saga.
Right. I mean, it was one of those books, and when people were reading at the time, you have to understand that most of these books are still written, mid-late 70s. I mean, things were definitely changing. But we still weren't quite there yet. Today, most of these books were aimed at adults. Uncanny X-Men, along with Legion, the New Teen Titans, and a few into the mid 80s, were those books that sort of changed. But Uncanny X-Men was really kind of the first of the superhero books. It really, like Neil Adams and in the mid 70s, and Denny O'Neil with Green Arrow, Green Lantern. So I mean, there were points previous to this with Batman, and so there were some, but. Ongoing, monthly, stable creative team, month after month. Well, Claremont and Byrne were doing the X-Men past like issue like 100 when they were on the book more permanently. Is for any fan that's in their 40s at this point, this was the book. these days, Dark Phoenix Saga will be released as a 12-issue event comic with 40 tie-ins, 25 variant covers. That this would be the book that pushed forward the entire line. It would cross over into every book. Back in these days, this was just an awesome couple issues of the X-Men. Like Bryce said, starts off kind of. They go and they're like, oh, these 2 mutants popped up. One's Kitty Pryde, one's Dazzler. Let's go split the X-Men team. All 5 of them, and 5 X-Men. Remember there were 5 X-Men, and 6.
Back when times were simpler.
Yeah. And, Beast shows up, and, Professor X comes back, so there's 7 of them. Ooh.
Don't forget Angel.
Yeah. Oh, and Angel, 8. Oh, that's like half of what's going on in, like, all new X-Men right now. But these guys go through, and, it's just kind of a small story, and you see Jean really start to change through the course of this book and get fucking crazy powerful. And, again, I've said this about other books. They literally do not make books like this these days. I've said some stuff about Claremont and Byrne, and I'm not a fan of their output for the last 10, 15 years. However, at this point, they were the best creative team in comic books, bar none. And it shows. The art's incredible for the time. You look at it now, and it still looks like this. It's so well done. It just everything looks great. Wolverine. This is when Wolverine gets badass. This arc is where Wolverine becomes that character that you know. He was not really like this prior to that. Oh, they kind of hint at it and stuff, but this is the arc where Wolverine's like, nope, I'm going to kill a bunch of fools. This is where it happens. So if you like Wolverine, you have to read this book.
And I like how they just kind of gloss over it. It's sort of like, if that means what I think it means.
Right.
When he kills Leland, and Leland has to go to the hospital, they're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of those books where I just don't think you could say enough about. It inspired every X-Men story that came after. Jean Grey became this constant background force in X-Men, whether she's alive or dead, all the way through the Morrison stuff into current day. And all that stuff wouldn't have existed because Emma Frost was created during this time. Dazzler, Kitty Pryde, the Hellfire Club, major mainstays in the X-Men universe all come out of this short little story. And, reading it as a trade paperback is interesting because Claremont writes it that you don't have to read it as a trade paperback. You read one issue, and then next month you read another issue. And again, this is the back of the day of the inner monologue and the recapping. And it is a page in every issue that recaps everything that's happened prior. A little tough to read when you're reading, kind of sitting down, because it's wordy. I mean, it takes me 30 seconds to read some comics these days. It's like a minute a page on this thing, which doesn't sound like a lot, but really think about how much time you spend reading a comic book these days. You're like, well, 1 giant splash page, 2 giant splash page, 3 words on this page, and you're done.
To read an old issue for me would take a couple of visits to the John. I can read one and before I'm done.
Yeah, this book, was definitely written for the monthly comic audience, and Byrne and Claremont wrote it that every issue could be someone's first, so you were given the full. Again, these are not problems of the old comics. This is just how they were done, and it's perfect for the time. And again, you have to understand when this came out and sort of everything that's going around. But you could have an entire podcast about Dark Phoenix Saga. Maybe we will.
We should.
But this book, I mean, again, as good of an X-Men book as you can get. I am fond of the Grant Morrison stuff. But again, all that stuff comes from this. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this because of all the stuff with Jean Grey and Emma Frost. So, yeah, Bryce, you're going to probably be the first Comic-Spiracy 100%. Review squad here because absolutely 10 out of 10. One of the most important comics ever written. So.
I agree with that. We'll see, though.
Uh-oh, Brock.
Yeah, exactly.
Brock was going to give it a 10 out of 10, but after that...
I'm going to give you if it's less than 10 out of a 10, you get a demerit, okay?
Oh, okay.
You get booted off the podcast.
Oh.
Remember when Professor X gave the X-Men demerits? That's fantastic. That's like the funniest part of the comic. Where Cyclops is like, we don't fucking give demerits. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. We don't care about that.
No, I had read this a few years ago when I got back into comic books because I had never read it originally.
Actually, I'm sorry. I should say, much like Bryce, I read this when I was much younger for the first time because I actually did get all these these books were never worth it. Oh, I got Giant Size X-Men for like $50 back in the day, right? It cost me nothing comparatively. Right. So I've read all this kind of piecemeal throughout the years as I was putting my X-Men collection together. But first time I've sat down in a long time and read it straight through. So thank you for that.
Yeah, it's been over a decade for me since I read it. It's like, oh my god, times have changed.
For me. Yeah.
I mean, like what you're saying, like double splash page, 3 words. It's like, oh, well, there goes 10% of the book.
Yeah.
No, I when I got back in comics, I read it, and because I'd heard great reviews about it and stuff, so I picked it up, read it, enjoyed it when I read it the first time. It's definitely written from that time period, so there's a lot of words you got to get through. But yeah, it's I mean, the covers are amazing for each issue. You kind of get a feel for what you're going to get.
Accurate to the interior.
Accurate to the interior. Yeah. And what's awesome is the classic X-Men reprints of this material. Like, they're similar style to what was going on in there. And they take it a little bit deeper, I think. So even those classic X-Men covers are really, really nice. I was kind of weirded out by the scene with Scott and Jean on top of the butt. And then, like, you go...
You're just trolling all this, aren't you?
No. I just thought it was really funny because, they start making out, right?
You know that it's pronounced butte.
Butte. I know, it's a butt. Though.
Okay, got it.
But it's like they're having a very intimate moment and so on and so forth. And then it's like, it says a week passes. I was like, what? They were up there for a week?
Dude, Cyclops got some serious mojo going on in the Claremont era.
I was like, But no, I really enjoyed it. I love the Black Queen. Yeah. Like I'm still want that damn Sideshow statue that they put out. Amazing. But yeah, it flows really, really nicely. It I think for the time period and how they were writing, it was almost as if you were watching a TV show, and you would get to a commercial break and you would come back and you would get enough information so that if you just came into the show at this point, you would know what was going on within a few minutes. And I like that about this, and it actually made me want to go back and, because I don't actually think I've read the Phoenix Saga stuff. I don't remember
the original stuff.
You mean
the original stuff
from issue 100 or 101 or whatever it was?
Yeah, something.
That's because she gets it from the M'Kron crystal and the Shi'ar. She gets this big kind of massive power from this.
Yeah, it starts in 100 or 101.
Yeah, I think it's 100. Yeah,
but just like this, it's like he breadcrumbs through the whole thing, so it's like a constantly evolving.
And I love the old kind of asterisk, this is what this is, it's from this issue, and so you have this nice kind of reference as you're going, so that like you could literally be reading this and go, oh, I am interested in reading that, now I need to know what I need to read.
Comics have actually kind of brought that back a little bit in recent years. You see it more than you did in the late 90s into the 2000s and maybe early 2010s. That kind of didn't happen, but I have seen it more often recently, so I do really like those.
Well, and I mean, for me, it's the story's really amazing because it's got so many layers to it with Phoenix and death and rebirth and life and love and all this stuff, and there's just so much going on in this book, and it really does show the core X-Men team how together they felt, how close they were, because you kind of, I mean, not to be bashing on Marvel, but you have so many X-Men characters now that it's kind of, you lose. In the current comic books, you lose that kind of connection where, I mean, I just glanced down and see it. This is where Colossus, Nightcrawler, and Wolverine kind of, melded together as a group of friends. And so, that Liberators miniseries that they did, like that spun out of this, and where you see them team up in like the late X-Men before they changed it to X-Men Legacy. Back in the day, they had a couple story arcs where they were like the core group going through, and you see that dynamic where these relationships are made, but you don't necessarily are getting that from the current books because there's just way too many characters that you kind of have to touch on. But this really did solidify, like, these characters care about each other, these characters, and that was a main theme running through it was love. So, yes, I'm going to be giving this 10 out of 10 Bryces.
Oh my god!
Because it's a really, really good, solid story that transcends time. And for me, I'm actually reading it wanting it to be redone. Like,
No,
not redone as in like John Romita Jr. doing artwork on it. Somebody good doing artwork on it.
No, this is good. I want to redone, dude. This is classic.
But for me, it's like it's one of those books that, or one of those stories that, like I watched the animated when I was a kid, and I see where the animated came from in this, and it's one of those things where I didn't mind the animated because it told it in its own way. But again, it's like I could almost feel like a new kind of current telling of this would work for me.
Oh, when I was doing the dig on people letting me down, the animated didn't let me down.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Go ahead, Tobe.
Well, since I'm the last, a lot of things has already been said, so I'm going to go with something that's kind of beautiful here. Because Bryce got some of the OG books here. He got the original issues on the table here. Charlie, of course, got his nice 30th anniversary hardcover. What do you got there? Hold that up for me, please.
This is the newer softcover version.
This is the newer softcover.
Brock's got the old
Brock's
softcover.
got the 2006 version, and I didn't bring it in by having it backpack out in the car, the 2003 edition.
Yeah.
Every single one of us have a completely different edition of this story. It just tells you how important the story is. It's getting reprinted, redone, recovered all the time, and it's always coming back, and that means something. So, you call it legendary, I'll call it classic. So, 10 out of 10 Bryce's too. It's one of those stories that you just can't. It's there. It's one of those must reads, must have in the collections. Not much should be said about it.
My man. Well, you guys all gave it a different score than I would give it.
Bryce gives it 6 out of 10. It's not that good.
I only picked it because I wanted to read it.
Meh. No, I would give it a 10.5 out of 10. No, so for me, again, a lot of it has already been said, so I won't rehash it too much, even though anything that I say will be too much. It was just so good to me, and I like the commercial thing. That's a great way of putting it. Is that every issue you get, like either right at the beginning or maximum 3 pages in, you get the recap 6 panels. And I also did like how they would call back, like, "Oh, you want to know where we saw Jason Wingard's silhouette?"
I missed that.
It was page 20.
Yeah.
Issue 1.
Or
35, page 20, panel 4.
Or I like it when they go like, "This happened at the references from 2 issues ago." It doesn't even give you the number. It goes like 2 issues ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I really dig that. I actually really miss all of that stuff.
Yeah, me too. Last ish.
Yeah.
So anyway, I loved that, and I do miss that, and I wish that I had noticed. I have not noticed them doing it more and more recently, so I wish that I saw that more. But
just, occasionally, more than they did.
Yeah. So I mean that's awesome, and I do miss that a lot, and I also agree with what you said about how. Both of you guys said, like, there were 5 X-Men, and then they had the new team with the all-new X-Men, and it was like, then there was a total of 9 or 10 or whatever it was. And then, Iceman doesn't show up in this story, so it's like you're dealing with a maximum of 8 or 9 X-Men. It's
the characters there was the core team, right? And then they broke up, but it's like, Xavier's kind of on the edge. And, Angel came in and was kind of with Xavier doing that thing. And then you had, Kitty Pryde was introduced and Dazzler was introduced. And Dazzler's like, peace out, I'm going to go dazzle people. It was, they didn't have to stick around for the whole thing. And it was kind of the core team went through. And if you could almost say that the characters were the ones that were crossing over with this book when they were needed and not necessarily kind of, we're going against the Phoenix. Everybody has to show up, so.
Yeah. It was an incredible story, and my favorite childhood, X-Men sort of not coming of age, but adolescent story of my favorite superhero team. Made me fall in love with the X-Men forever. Little details that I didn't notice until I reread it, but things like I never noticed, and I don't know if this is technically John Byrne or Cockrum or Terry Austin, but Cyclops' suit is actually more black than blue. It's kind of the same with Nightcrawler. He's actually more black than blue, but when I think of Nightcrawler, I always think of him as blue, and same with Cyclops' outfit, and just little details like that. It's crazy that there's 2 different scenes where women get just like crushed in the face by
Sebastian Shaw.
Sebastian Shaw crushes Storm, and he's like incredibly strong, and she's like a frail
She's not frail. She's just human.
Sorry, frail. Yeah, it's not the
She's
right word.
human.
No. But even as a human, she is not like Peter Rasputin human.
No, she's a normal human.
Yes, exactly.
For the
she
most
weighs about whatever. She weighs whatever she weighs, 120 pounds.
It was issue
Wasn't Smasher
132 when
and
she's
then
being fallen over.
is it Gladiator or Smasher crushes?
Yeah, I think it's Smasher.
Was it Jean Grey? Who was it?
Well, Colossus crushes Jean Grey later.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Colossus in 137. Yeah, that one right there.
The mounting one.
Is the sound effect. And then, so Colossus, in his armored form, just socks Jean Grey in the face, and she says, like, oh, you pulled your punch. Like, otherwise my head would have come off. Like, stuff like that. And stuff like there's at least 3 scenes where Wolverine's, like, caught, like, opening a beer, and my favorite...
This is back when Wolverine could smoke, too. It's good times.
Yeah.
Jason Wingard was smoking.
all the time.
Yeah.
And my favorite, I think, of all of the issues was one of the first. It was. Man, I forget, but it was like 132 or something like that. They go to the malt shop. Katie Price
Malt shops.
When Wolverine is reading a Penthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's reading Penthouse.
The malt shop owner wants him to pay for it, and he doesn't want to pay for it, and so he almost gets into it with the malt shop owner.
Yeah, and he puts it back behind the Playboy. Yeah,
Then the Mandroids show up and they all get into it. But it's just like Wolverine used to be such a badass. No, I'm going to burn read your Penthouse and then put it back and not pay for it, and then get in your face if you want to. If you wanted to ask me, it's just incredible. So, dude, there are so
that's what
many.
you need to do. If you open a malt shop next door, and just have a malt shop in a comic book store.
I mean, and this really goes. Regardless of what's happening in comic books these days, stories like this, even if you haven't read it in a decade, kind of. This is the thing. Stories like this are what kind of keep people going in comic books, because there's always, whether it's something modern or something older, these type of conversations we're having right now are the conversations you want to have about books. We're like, that it doesn't matter. Everyone's got their own opinion on different things, but this is the type of reaction that we can have, and I love it.
Reading this, I mean, I actually saw a lot of what Bendis is. Like tries to do with his characters,
absolutely
getting the interaction going, and where he kind of, in my opinion, overdoes it a lot of time. This does it. Yeah. This does it perfectly. Yeah. Because it's like it's set up perfectly for the time, and you can see the influence this has, like on Bendis and how he's trying to have his character, his X-Men interact and stuff.
Bendis is one of those guys, and John's to a degree. I think their success comes because they understand the older style of the books and do a modern kind of spin on that. John's with all his love of all the various characters and the continuity. Bendis with the love of just the big expository dialogue and the conversations and the relationships. Bendis really hits the relationships as well. There was a long time where I was like, oh, I'm not liking this Bendis stuff, but I've actually really come around on him in recent years, and I think he's doing. He works so well because he hits that audience, that part that a lot of people miss about some of the older comics. I think he does a good job with it. So,
yeah. So anyway, it was great, and it is sort of a bittersweet sort of transition. Not that I want to transition to a sadder thing, that comics, just like you said, are not like this anymore, and that it would all be their summer blockbuster event, and it would have a bunch of tie-ins, and you wouldn't feel like you had the whole story, and there would be 50 X-Men, and it would be like, and it's like you're saying with, this is like a troll. I'm holding up the cover of All New X-Men number 14, which has got Wingard and a young Jean Grey on the cover.
Yeah,
and it's just like, on one hand, you love him because he appreciates all the old stuff and where his readers are coming from, and on the other hand, it's like, you're not writing these same type of stories.
It tells you how strong that story was till this day. They're still trying to bank on it.
Yeah. Well, but again, that's comics in general.
No. I know.
Anyway. Most of the covers in this, going back to the covers, they've been immortalized in other fashions. Like there have been other covers that have emulated.
Oh yeah,
these exact covers.
Well, one of the things that I think makes this story such a nice snapshot for the time is you didn't have the spoilers that exist today. Yeah. Like nowadays, this would have gotten spoiled X amount of issues before, But the first time reading this, you still had that sort of pure reaction of like, holy crap. Like every once in a while, something will catch me off guard. I'll be frantically texting Toby or Ryan. And
well, at the end of 136, when they just disappear at the end of the issue and you think that the Dark Phoenix Saga is over and they just disappear, like what? I don't remember what my reaction was reading it like, so many years ago, but without the internet, I was probably like...
it's like commercial break. You're like, oh shit, what happens next?
Exactly. And then they show up and it's like, oh yeah, they had the whole breadcrumb thing with the Imperial Guard for very little throughout the earlier issues. So.
Yeah.
Yes. I still remember when I used to come here, buy my comics, go out to my car, read my comics before going back to work.
Yeah. We're running a little long here, so we're going to push that Walking Dead spoiler talk to next week, especially since Omar will be here, and he's a huge fan.
Yeah,
so.
but I'm not.
Are you not going to be here next week?
No, I'm working. Man.
Oh, that's right, you're gone.
Yep, no Captain America for me either.
Oh, that's right. Fuck.
Can we do the...
Oh, wait, Omar's actually not going to be here next week either. We're running super long, though. What? Toby, give us your... We're going to talk... Well, hold on. Toby, first... You have to tell us where your book club pick for the month of April is.
Oh, that's right.
So I thought about this for a while here. I was going to go with Nasric books, which I am going to hold off till next time. I was going to go with a manga, which I will hold off till next time. I thought about
do both next time.
The manga asterisk.
The next time. So I'm saving my Euro comic, my Asian comic for next time. I'm gonna go with a good old independent title with an artist that's doing quite a bit of Marvel work these days. So before he's doing Avengers, before he was doing Jungle Girl, before he was doing Liberty Meadows, there was a book called University Squared. And till this day, I think that's his best work. I'm talking about Frank Cho. So University Squared is his stuff that he did in college. The humor is way more raw in my mind, and I thought he hit all the puns a little way more than he did in Liberty Meadows. He kind of redid it. Liberty Meadows is kind of a redo of University Squared, and I think University Squared was just way better.
University Squared and Liberty Meadows are both, technically comic strips.
Yes.
Right? So it was something he did University Squared in all his college paper, right?
It's all collected
really?
in one trade, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all collected in one trade, and because it was on a college paper, I think he was able to do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
Which with Liberty Meadows was a little more PG, a little more,
they still ran Liberty Meadows in some papers, didn't they?
Yeah. But, University Squared, one of my favorite books of all time.
Cool.
It's one of the ones I read, and I laughed like there's no tomorrow. I like little creatures and funny animals, and I like hot, beautiful women. So you put the two together, you got University Squared.
Perfect.
It was much more succinct than I was.
All right, Toby, you want to? You got a minute or two to talk about Walking Dead?
Absolutely.
Well, the rest of us
always have time.
We can
for
talk
Walking
about
Dead.
it next
Why
week.
did the other guys not watch it?
No, we all watched it, but we're running way late, so we're running way long. So
He's just saying he's not allotting any
So
time.
I'm the only one allowed talking about.
just tell us what you thought about
And
it.
everybody else is going to talk next time about it. Is that what's going on? That's weird, man.
Just talk about it for a minute. Just tell us what you thought of the finale, and then we'll talk about it more at length next week.
I really liked it. I like that Rick Grimes is back.
Yeah.
I was partly hoping that they'd be a little more smarter when they were going into that camp, as opposed to just like, hey, we're going to investigate all of this, and then before you know it, they go, hey, we're here, guys. So I thought that was a little weird, but the storyline with the flashback, I love that stuff. The beginning of Soft Rick. The return of Leader Rick, the way he figured everything out when he was in that trap area.
Yeah.
When he goes in, and when he saw the watch, the poncho, all the stuff that belonged to his friends, I was like, that was fantastic. 2 episodes ago with the girls, that was one heartbreaking episode.
Yeah.
And then follow up by this, it's really, really good stuff.
Yeah.
So no, I'm really, really looking forward to next season, and I like where they're taking us. So
shipping starts October. Is
that what it is? Okay.
Is that start every year in October? So.
Yeah, I like the fresh take. I like the spines that were on the ground when they were running. That you saw all the spines laying on that the blue tarp. That was pretty serious. and the people screaming for help when they're running by one of the other cable carts.
Yeah.
A lot of teasers, man.
Yeah.
So no, I'm can't say nothing but good things about this episode.
Well, we'll talk about this a little bit more at length next week because we are running way over the time, so we're going to wrap up. Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening to this podcast. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this podcast that is here. Bryce, thank you for your book club pick. That was one good pick. So, Geekbox.net and ComicsConspiracy.biz is where you can find this podcast. You can talk to us on forums.geekbox.net. Geekbox community group on Facebook. Go talk to us there. We have a big group over there. The Comic Conspiracy at Geekbox.net is where you can email us if you have any questions. You can also hit us up on Twitter. I'm Ryan Higgins Ryan. Brock is Brock Sager. Toby is Toby XI. Omar, who I'm not sure when he's going to be back, next week or two, is Comics and Decline. Bryce is Larsen, Bryce, and Charlie's Insanity and Chaos. Brock's got, I'm on the Geekbox at geekbox.net every Tuesday. Every Wednesday morning is when it comes out. Brock has conspiratorBrock.com. That's his blog. Go check out his stuff there. And he's doing some new video weekly picks on YouTube, so you can go see those. Him talk about his new books.
Little shout out for all the books I'm polling and reading every week.
Omar's got comicsanddecline.com. That's his blog. Go read that there. Charlie has the Infinite Longbox podcast and the Wanderers in the Fourth Dimension podcast, which is his Doctor Who podcast about every episode of Doctor Who in chronological order. So that's a long project. Wanderin4d.com.
I'm just waiting for 5 years from now where he only has one podcast or 10 podcasts in a row.
Yeah.
And then he'll be offline for like 6 months or a year, and then he'll have another 5. And then a couple of weeks, and then Christmas.
Well, we've just started reviewing some of the Big Finish stuff, too, so that could extend us another.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Don't you have a family and a job?
Well,
He does this for his family.
Yeah, he includes his family on this
Do you
one.
not sleep? What's wrong with you?
Connor has a segment on this one, so he's including it.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
Connor
awesome.
has Connor's Corner on every
man.
episode.
That's awesome, really?
Yeah.
That's how you do it. He's just involved with family.
Get some
Before
sleep,
you know
I
it,
guess.
Nadia's going to have an input too.
I guess. All right, guys. Well, go listen to that podcast. Yeah, that's it. Digital.comicconspiracy.biz. You can buy some digital comics from us there. And Geekbox has the Patreon.
Yep.
So you can go donate to us there at patreon.com/geekbox, which is a little donation thing. You send us a little cash every week for our new episodes. It's fun times. So we got a bunch of donators on there already, so good stuff. We will catch everyone next week.